Ashley here. So today I'm making a video I've wanted to make for quite a while. I'm talking about how I moved to Japan, including the visa process, jobs, housing, schools, all of that. I was really confused and worried about it when I was coming here from America, so I thought this might be helpful for someone else too. My first visa I got while in America. I had to go to the Japanese embassy local to my area. The whole process from signing with a company, the company's procedure, their procedure with me, and then my procedure with the embassy took about 6 months in total. So that can vary a lot based on your company. Mine has an established relationship with the embassy office, so it moved a little quickly. I was very fortunate, and my first visa is a 3-year visa. They can come in 1, 3, or 5 years to start. This was a work visa for engineers / specialists in humanities, typically English teachers coming from overseas. I was able to receive this one because I was working with an eikaiwa, an English conversation school called Ion. This is a really common way to get into Japan, honestly. If you are a native speaking English teacher and you've had some experience, typically there are companies willing to help you move there. They even pay for your flight and training. I found my job from a couple of different sources. There's a lot of eikaiwas and English teaching jobs, so I used gaijin pot jobs and r/teaching in Japan to find ones that would suit me. Gaijin pot jobs is a really well-known and established job site for foreigners wanting to work in Japan. So all of their companies are vetted, and I've had really good experiences with every company I've used from them. r/teaching in Japan is just a subreddit that is used by the teaching community in Japan. It can be private schools, public schools, other conversation schools, even university professors who will give their experience and their advice to you. So that was really useful when I was looking. As I said, there are so many different eikaiwas, and so having it boiled down simply and having people explain the differences really helped and relieved a lot of pressure. Now, my second visa was a typical study abroad student visa. I got this one quite recently, just in June 2023. I switched to this visa from my work visa while in Japan. Switching in Japan required a lot more paperwork from me. I had to do a couple interviews and a couple extra finance checks as I was already living in Japan with a 3-year visa and choosing to switch to a student one. So they were, I guess, a little suspicious. Though I needed a lot more paperwork, my school was really useful and they provided a lot of it for me and were on hand to help me out with any others that I needed. At the time when I got my visa, because of delays, I was already taking classes, but my professors were also really understanding and even allowed me to skip class a few times to go to my visa appointments. In Japan, the student visas last until about 3 to 6 months after you graduate. So I'm doing a grad school program, my master's in teaching English. So mine was only a 2-year visa, which means it expires about the same time as my work visa did. However, because I went in person, I was also able to add on a work extension. So by default, Japanese student visas do not allow you to work. However, when you apply for your visa, you can also apply for a part-time work extension. This will allow you to work up to 27 hours within a certain range of fields. So for me, I've already been an English teacher, so I chose to get one where I could work in things such as English teaching part-time. That's what I'm doing now with another eikaiwa cram school company that has so far been going really well. They work with students all the time, and this is Inter Thomas. The study abroad visa is given to all kinds of students, not only those at a university, but including vocational students. So if you are coming to study something other than academic studies, you can also get a study abroad visa for this purpose. So there are some similarities between that work visa I had and my 2-year student visa. First, for both, finances are really important. In Japan, if you are trying to come here or get a new visa change, you typically need to have proof of $10,000 accessible to you. Just in case anything goes wrong while you're in the country, you have an emergency fund, so it will not become a burden on the Japanese system. While I had a couple different interviews and things like that needed for the student visa, I didn't really have those with the work visa. My company was so established, they honestly didn't really ask me many questions. However, the Japanese visa system does work on a point scale for most of their visas. So a really good way to take advantage of this is first to learn Japanese. They do give preferential treatment to those who've shown that they're trying to learn the language, especially if you're going there for work or a long-term study abroad. Showing that you're serious enough about having a typical ordinary life there by learning the language and investing that time and energy really goes a long way with the visa officers. So I definitely recommend at least knowing a couple polite phrases that you can use when speaking with them to show that you are interested in learning. They may also ask you, why do you want to live in Japan? For this question, I've heard people answer in a variety of ways. I like games, I like anime. I did not include any of that in my reason why I wanted to move to Japan. They want to see people who have a realistic understanding of what Japan is like and who can be responsible citizens. So if you discuss only things like the anime or gaming side of it, they may not take you seriously, unfortunately. So it's definitely important to keep it grounded in what you do know. For me, I mentioned that obviously my lovely boyfriend who's sitting over there, Haruki, is Japanese and living here, and that gave me a little bit of a boost knowing that I have a stable Japanese social network. And also I enjoyed teaching, so I could say I want to teach the children of Japan English, and they really liked that answer. In the future, I'll make something about how to study Japanese. I am myself a language teacher and in a master's program for teaching language and language psychology and how to best study. So I'll upload something about that in the future, as well as things like the culture shock and making friends in Japan. It can be a lot, but it's possible. You can move to Japan. I moved to Japan and there's nothing really too special about me, so I'm sure you can do it too. And if you can, try to get yourself a Japanese boyfriend. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more aspect about moving to Japan came down to housing. So when I moved with my eikaiwa company, Eon, for my first visa, this was a eikaiwa that specializes in bringing overseas teachers fresh to Japan. So they usually set you up with company housing to start. This was really useful for me because I did not know how to navigate the Japanese housing market at all or how to find one close to my school. I came in, it was furnished, ready to go at a rate that was pretty good. I paid about $500 for my apartment. Depending on where you live, Japanese landlords can be quite hesitant, especially if you don't have a high Japanese ability or you haven't been here long term. Luckily, because I had Haruki, I was able to kind of use him as my guarantor, and I was able to get in because of him. I know looking at the Japanese embassy website with all the visa types and all the jobs can be really overwhelming. But if you keep it organized and look for these main types of visas, specifically the engineer specialist in humanity and the student visa, then it can be really clear cut. Make sure to find that job or school first, and they have set processes. They typically have relationships with the visa offices already in place that can expedite things. So take a breath, you can do it. It's possible to move. It took me a little bit because it was also during the COVID-19 pandemic when I was moving, but things are much more up to speed now. And I hope that you can have a wonderful time moving to Japan. Thank you so much. I hope this helps clear things up some about work, school, visa in Japan. This is a lot more technical than our usual content, but I think past Ashley would have been really glad to have these videos, so hopefully someone else is too.